Good afternoon, and thank you. On behalf of Unity, we want to welcome you to our first webinar, our first of three Get Out the Vote webinars. Our webinars are entitled Rise and Vote, Amplifying Native Votes. This webinar is being sponsored by Cities/Tribes Forward and the Center for Native American Youth. Again, my name is Greg Mendoza, and I come from the Gila River Indian community here in Arizona, and I serve as Unity's Youth Programs Director. So again, on behalf of Unity, we want to welcome all of you to this webinar, which is so important for our young people and our tribal communities. You know, empowering Native votes in elections is a powerful concept that focuses on increasing voter participation, representation, advocacy among Native communities. It includes ensuring that Native voices are heard and considered in tribal, state, and national elections. This can be achieved through many strategies, and we're going to discuss those today in our presentation, but some of those areas include voter education and registration drives, community involvement and advocacy, creating cultural relevant campaigns, encouraging Indigenous campaigns or candidates to run for office, and even building alliances, which are so important during this effort. Today, we are very honored to have with us Lourdes, and she will introduce herself, but she is Unity's 25 under 25 honoree. She is Hijik Otham from the Thanatam Nation, and she holds a bachelor's degree in American Indian Studies and minor in Justice Studies from Arizona State University. So with that, we are very honored to have Lourdes with us. So with that, Lourdes, we're happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for that introduction. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm excited to see everyone who's joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lourdes Pereira. I'm here at Taratam. I come from the San Lucie district of the Thanatam Nation, and I am currently on Akamaratam, Onkakimaratam, and Peepash territory, what we know today as Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm excited to talk about voting this afternoon with all of you. I think this is super important right now. Of course, it's always important to vote. But in our climate currently, I think this is just super important. I know that we always hear, right? It's important to vote, get out the vote. As a Native youth, I just never understood really why, right? And I think it's important that we just ask, why is voting important? What does it, have anything to do with me? And does my vote really matter? I personally had a conflict with, in high school, my high school days. Greg just announced that of course, and you see it on there, that I did graduate from ASU. So I'm out of my high school days, post-college. But there was a moment when I was very anti-voting. I didn't think that it was important to vote. I learned about the electoral college, and I was just over it. And I was like, there's nothing I can do. The system's broken, whatever. And I wanted to just throw that out of the conversation. But if voting didn't matter, then why are there so many barriers in place to make sure Native people don't vote? Because when we do vote, we see a really large change happening. In the last election, presidential election for Arizona, Arizona is usually a red state. We made it purple. We changed that because natives, we saw the statistics, natives came out and voted. So we have power with every election. And if voting didn't matter, then why would it be when we're going to our polls as Native people, we get turned away for using a tribal ID? which that is wrong. You can use a tribal ID at polls because it is a federal identification. We see that some of our elders will go and it's a struggle because their first language was not English. And there's not a ton of services to make sure that they understand what they're voting towards. There's even not a ton of access for our folks and on the reservation that are in rural places aren't able to just get transported easily to the polls. There's a lot of barriers in place, and that really shifted how I think about my relationship to voting, because I do believe that if we weren't a concern, if voting didn't matter, there wouldn't be a ton of barriers in place. So I see voting as a tool. We can utilize voting to support the initiatives that we feel very passionately about. And so I wanted to ask all of you in this upcoming election, are there issues, are there things you're thinking about that you want to make sure you consider when you're voting? This can be about land. For me, specifically, my personal experience. I'm here at Charatam, but my people do reside on the United States and what we know today as the Mexico border. And the wall was very horrific for my people. And there was a lot of reburials that I had to attend when that was being constructed. And so with my vote, I want to make sure that that never happens again. And so that's something I'm going to be thinking about. And you can put in the chat any issues, thoughts that you might be thinking about, which you want to utilize your voice in this upcoming election, or just utilize your vote. Protecting our land, protecting our kids, protecting our sovereignty. I think that's a big one that across the board, a lot of us as Indigenous people, we want to make sure is a part of the conversation. But overall, I want, and feel free, even if I'm talking, you can put that in the chat at any time. I'm going to just put the chat on the side. But I really just want to share that it is incredibly important that we start seeing voting as a tool, because when we show out as Indigenous people, we really do make an impact. And so you can see it, of course, voting as an extension of leadership, helping our communities, supporting our communities. If we're not voting, we're giving up our vote to someone else who we have no idea or connection possibly to, and we'll utilize that vote for whatever they see fit. And for me, I just want to make sure that I'm not giving up my vote to someone else. I want to make sure that our sacred lands are protected. I want to make sure my elders are protected. I want to make sure tribal sovereignty is protected. And that's how I think that this upcoming election, us as Native youth really need to show out and be thinking about that, thinking about our people and how this is a way we can make a change and utilize our voices, make sure that we speak out. I also want to make sure that if you are not yet registered to vote, I'll be putting in the chat I'm a part of the Skoden Native Outdoors Initiative, and we want to make sure that everyone in Arizona gets registered before October 7th. So please make sure if you're not registered yet, maybe your friends aren't registered, there's a link here you can go to, and it talks about all the deadlines. You can make sure that you don't miss, and that way you're registered to vote in this upcoming election. I'm glad to see the introductions in the chat. I was just checking in on that. But even though we might have a complicated relationship with voting, of Native Americans were the last to vote, and we know that there was a struggle in making sure that we got the right to vote. I want to make sure us as Native youth really do come out in this election, because there is so much riding every year with presidential election. And even if you're not even trying to focus on the presidential election, there's so much on the ballot that will affect us as Native people. We want to make sure we show up for that. And also we have our tribal elections. I don't want to make sure we forget about that. It's also important to show up for your own community, going back to your community and making sure that you vote there as well. That there are currently so many organizations that are pushing for this initiative, for the Native vote, for the Native youth voting. I really love the Native Girls Vote, and that's on Instagram. Of course, we have Unity supporting us as Native youth voting. There's Skoden Vote Initiative voting. There's just so much out there and so much information. I strongly support everything they're doing, but also I strongly recommend Native youth, everyone attending on this call, that of course do your research, look up whatever issues and things that you feel passionate about. Look into these people running and making sure that they align with the types of things you're passionate about, but also support the organizations that are out there trying to either volunteer their time and supporting tribes on the day of the election, or just putting out information. It's just 1 or 2 clicks, right? We can do to make sure that we're also advocating for the Native vote. And there's so many on Instagram. I'm sure you could look it up as well. But please support what they're doing. And I know we're all advocates here on this call. And I think it's great that you even attended and wanted to learn more and participate in this. So thank you so much. And I'm going to be handing it over to Greg. I'll be here if you have any questions or want to talk about how you can even get involved with the Skoden initiative. There's also ASU, their law school puts on a Native American Protection Initiative every single year, and that's where you can volunteer your time to go to reservations around the Phoenix area, Navajo, of course, down south, Gila River, Salt River, Thanatham, and you can just help Native voters the day of election and learn too about the barriers we face as Native voters. So I think I'm here if you have any questions. If you'd like to connect after, I'll still be around. Feel free to message me in the chat. So thank you again for this time, for letting me speak to all of you. And thank you, Unity, for letting me speak here today, this afternoon. So I'll hand it over to Greg. Sapa, a good eye.
Thank you, Lourdes. Again, we are very thankful for Lourdes and her leadership and her continued advocacy in Indian country. Lourdes has been representing Unity in many areas, whether she's a 25 under 25 honoree, but she also was our most recent Unity News anchor, and she did a wonderful job. So I know she has interest in going to law school, so I know she has other aspirations, but I know that this issue has been important for her. So again, Lourdes, thank you for staying on, and there's questions in the chat. So again, we'll get to those, but we'll go on to the next screen for all of you. And again, we're all here because we want to get out the vote. And for all of us, we've heard that term. We've heard the term of get out the vote, and it's really basically a campaign to boost voter turnout. Your vote is very important for young people that are on the call. Your vote is so important. If you're of the age, your vote helps shape policies that affect our communities. And so young people know that, as you know, and we often hear this, that our ancestors couldn't vote, but you guys can. So please consider that. And again, there's many ways of getting out the vote. Lourdes mentioned representation and advocacy. One probably most important thing to our tribal communities is protecting our tribal sovereignty, which is a very key issue in Indian country. And we often hear these terms, but when you vote, you're also addressing key issues that affect our Native communities, some of the distinct challenges that Native tribes have. Again, these some of the healthcare disparities, environmental issues, educational access, economic development for our tribal communities. By voting, Native people can help support leaders and policies that address all of these critical issues that we hear often. So again, and you also hear the term combating voter suppression. We often hear that a lot. So again, it's important that our young people understand that this is a given right to you. This is a right that we all cherish. And so, again, Lourdes, do you have any thoughts on any of that with regard to this get out the vote effort?
I would support everything you're saying. I think everything you touched on, Greg, was like spot on, really.
Thank you,
But
Lourdes.
I would like to respond to the question if possible. I don't know if we have enough time.
Please do so.
Oh, okay. I wanted to respond to the chat about if someone just turned 18 and what I would tell them. I wanted to kind of just show my voter, I have my voter identification card here, but a lot of that information is talking about district, what district you're in, what county you're in. These are questions we want to ask so that we know what polls to go to, because if you're out of your district and you're trying on an election day to get to the polls and it's outside of your district, you won't be able to vote. So these are just questions we want to ask. You can even just Google my county and it will come up with your zip code. But also the link I sent in the chat does have a lot of more information and where you can register, what link you go to register. But there's a lot of questions when it comes to voting about where you are within the United States. Sorry.
Thank you, Lourdes. And, the next slide speaks about why Native votes matter. And, Native voices are often unrepresented. And so voting can address big issues as mentioned, like some of the issues could be like on land rights, healthcare, education, sovereignty. And again, your voice and vote matter because it's a way to shape our futures. So again, that's why it's so important. And I just want to acknowledge that I understand that Navajo Prep is on the call, and I want to thank Ms. Denise Jensen, who is a teacher who always involves her Native students in this process. So I just want to shout out to Navajo Preparatory that's on the call. I know that the students are viewing this webinar. Feel free, students, to ask any questions that you may have. But again, shout out to Ms. Jensen for being an awesome teacher and for getting young people to vote. It's really important. So again, when we talk about why Native votes matter, it's because it's a powerful thing. If you think about it, a powerful force, even in our tribal communities, it's a powerful force in shaping policies, leadership that directly impact Native communities and the broader society. Young people need to know that they have a place in our country, and that yes, their voice and their votes do matter. And again, some of those issues, when we talk about key reasons why Native votes are so crucial, and it's about ensuring representation. It also protects our tribal sovereignty and rights. Another is addressing some of the critical issues affecting Indian country and influencing the local, tribal, state, and federal national elections. So again, this is why your vote matters. Another area that it matters is by combating voter suppression and empowering future generations, building collective power and unity, and also it's part of also preserving our cultural identities and values. Again, driving some of the social issues. Equality is always something that we often talk about. So, and again, it's demonstrating the strength and resilience as Native peoples. So again, young people, this is why Native votes matter. I have a colleague on the call, Lauren Ashley. Do you have any thoughts when we talk about why Native votes matter?
You brought up a lot of really important points. I think it's really important just to remember that that if we don't participate, in the elections and use the voice that we have, you know, it's almost taking advantage of the rights that others have really fought for. And I know we've talked about this in a lot of ways, but sovereignty and land rights, a lot of these things could be determined. You know, these are issues that affect our reservations, our nations, our communities, our backyards. And for far too long, Native people didn't have a voice in making a decision. So for me, I know it's kind of funny. It's not the most professional thing, but my community and my family, we say, if you don't vote, then you don't have a right to complain about it, right? So just being very real, and asking your family members, you know, I don't ask them who they're voting for, but I ask them, are they voting, and why have they made the decision to vote or not vote? And that sparks really great conversation. And I love that. Denise in the chat, she says students are here are not of age of voting yet, but they'd like some ideas on how they can support this effort. And I think having those transparent conversations with our families and our communities, you know, you would be surprised at the youth voice and how much it influences parents and how much it influences if adults in their lives participate or not. I know I was asked by my nieces and nephews, they say, do you vote? And it really, like, you know, struck me, and I had to be honest with them, like, did I miss the last year's vote? Was I participating to my fullest? And just encouraging to have open conversations, not to start fights over, you know, not to pick sides, but having those nonpartisan conversations of why is this important? What does my voice really carry? And if I want to see change, then I have to be the change, and I have to show my nieces and nephews, and I have to show my community that I am participating. Or, like we say, you don't have a right to complain about the outcomes if you're not participating, right? So I'm going to pass it back over. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren Ashley, for that. And, you know, it's always encouraging when we could hear from our Unity leaders, such as our Northwest area representative. You'll see her slide here, and a quote, a powerful quote that she submitted to Unity. Again, you know, voting is important for me as a Native person because it ensures my voice is heard in decisions that affect my community. It helps protect our rights and interests and contributes to the representation of Native issues in government policies. And that's from Maisie Countryman. So thank you, Maisie, for sharing that. The next slide we want to speak of is the challenges to Native voting. You know, there's been many challenges over the years, and it's been somewhat, it's been some of our ancestors, former tribal leaders have struggled with some of these challenges. And it is unfortunate, but we do have these challenges and the history behind the Native vote, but again, some of the barriers we face include the remote locations, not enough polling sites, and we hear that often. I know for a lot of Native communities that are located in rural areas, that's a big challenge for tribes. And again, we often hear about the difficult voter ID laws and registration processes. Of course, there's been a lot of mistrust in the political system and past disenfranchisement, and not enough access to reliable information and resources. So again, on this challenge, Native American communities face, as mentioned, many challenges of voting and can significantly impact their ability to participate in the electoral process. So these challenges stem from a lot of historical, legal, geographic, and logistical barriers that our tribes have faced and what Native people have faced. And again, which many of them are very unique to our populations. And again, these are just some of the key challenges to Native voting that I just want to share with you. Again, as mentioned, location, the lack of access to our polling sites, like say Navajo Nation. Navajo Nation is the largest tribe in the nation, and there's issues there. There's tribes, even the Thanatam Nation down south, you know, they're a huge reservation. And again, there's still challenges there with regard to their location and the lack of access. But I know tribes have come together. They're mobilizing to get those resources out to our tribal members. Again, another issue we often hear is the lack of reliable mailing addresses, you know, and again, voter ID laws that we talk about, and then accessing some of the critical issues affecting our Native communities. And, you know, the issues go on and on, the challenges. You know, Lourdes, I know that you have been doing a lot of work in this area of Native voting. What do you see as some of those challenges in your view?
I was just about to type out too in the chat. I have seen, of course, everything listed here is correct. I know tribal ID is a really big part of the conversation, and of course, transportation, getting people to those polls, because, and speaking from my experience, I mean, Thanatam Nation is the size of Connecticut, and there's not a ton of, you know, when we're talking about transportation, even our districts, we're pretty spread out. So getting people to the polls is difficult, but also the PO boxes, using a PO box, you can be turned away for that because it's not seen as a legitimate address. But a lot of my relatives on the reservation, of course, you're using a PO box because it's not like we have our mailboxes all the way out. You know, there's not even a road leading up to, of course, it's a dirt road, but we don't, we're so spread out. We don't have the same types of structures like you would see in urban areas. And then that's another barrier for us to get to these places. And if you're traveling, let's say we travel an hour just to get to the polls, and now we're being turned away because we're using a PO box. It's horrible. I mean, we want to get that fixed right away, which is why I really do like organizations like the Native American Protection Initiative, where you have someone on site to support and help Native voters when they're faced with these issues.
Thank you, Lourdes. Again, you know, we do face that, and I know tribes have become very innovative on different ways of meeting these challenges that we face, we often hear about, and a lot of it, and as mentioned, you know, this is historical, thinking about, you know, some of our past tribal leaders that have tried and attempted to. I know we have 2 tribal members from my community that were instrumental in helping in that effort, in getting natives to vote here, even here in the state of Arizona. So again, we continue to face those barriers. So the next area that we want to focus on is on overcoming these barriers, educating our community on voting rights, arrange rides and polling places. You know, I think tribal communities have begun to do that. And then to host voter registration drives and fun events. I know for some tribal communities, they will have barbecues. If you register, you'll get a barbecue, and some are being very creative in their ways of trying to get our tribal members to get out and to register, but also have fun activities. And then also there's other ways to create and share some culturally relevant get out the vote materials as well. So with that, we have our executive director with her hand up. So Mary Kim.
Thank you, Greg, and good afternoon or good evening, everyone. It's great to see all of you participating. I appreciate Lourdes coming on and sharing her insights, and Greg, you've provided some good information and some awesome tips. I ran for office many years ago, and I want to talk about the challenges that I actually witnessed firsthand, and this is way back many years ago. Some of you might not have even been born, but I ran for Congress in 2008. And during that time, I had a huge responsibility to ensure that people, especially in my community, were registered to vote. And what I found that was helpful is to just straight out ask people if they're not registered to vote, to start a conversation about why they're not registered to vote. That was helpful to me. Some of the responses I got or received was that, and some people, it's hard at times for them to talk about this, especially with their elders. There could be vision issues. There could be disability issues. For instance, I encountered someone who had a disability with his hand, and he wasn't able to sign his name. He wasn't able to complete the ballot correctly. In fact, he couldn't even read very well. So by law, and this is important to know, people who have those types of challenges, they can have someone assist them at voter registration, desks, or even at the polls. So that's something to keep in mind. And so if people have disabilities like with vision, or whether it's a physical disability, and this is an important conversation to have with your grandparents, right? Our elders, to make sure that, if they're not registered to vote, why are you not registered? And it sometimes we think of it as just apathy, that they're maybe not interested, but that's, I think, furthest from the truth. Our people, no matter what age, we all care deeply about our communities, right? And we'd like to have a say in people who are elected to positions who are going to make the best decisions for us and for our communities. So I think it's important, again, to not only create your own voting plan for election day, but to check in with your elders, or check in with those who may be homebound, to see if you can help them develop a plan. Sometimes it's just a matter of asking, do you need assistance, or do you need help with anything? And maybe direct them. Some of them are really, they don't have the technology. They may not have the Wi-Fi. They can't just jump on a laptop and check to see if their voter registration is up to date. So there are people in our community who do need assistance. And I think it's really important, and part of our responsibilities, right, as good relatives, to check on them, to make sure that, if they need assistance, that they're getting the assistance that they need. So I just wanted to share a little bit about, some of the challenges that we may not be thinking about in terms of physical challenges that people may have, related to whether it's literacy or vision issues or disabilities, to make sure that, everyone has an equal opportunity. And some things you've touched on, like transportation, back home, I believe, people are provided transportation to go to the polls. So making sure that, you're taking advantage of that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary Kim. Wonderful ideas there. And talking about fun things, I know that this past weekend, the Desert Diamond Casino hosted a Rocking the Native Vote Wela Festival. How was that, Lourdes?
Unfortunately, I was not there because I had a family reunion, but I did work with the fashion show part of that. And also I was working with the head person to put this event together. And it was a lot of fun, honestly. It was really cool to be a part of the fashion show experience, to make it more creative. Of course, we love Wida. All of us love Wida. And that's really fun to be able to dance and things like that. But it was also awesome to make it something that was really engaging, and an event that can bring people together and have that message of, okay, are we registered to vote? And, what's the importance of voting, and kind of bringing up these conversations. Like you said, Greg, we can do it in a fun way where we can get our community together and we can celebrate and just have a good time and also talk about voting, right? Because I do think that voting can be tied to very serious matters. And, it's fun to just be able to be in a more informal and more relaxed environment so that we feel good and safe about talking about these things. I also wanted to just kind of double back with what Mary Kim said. And in the chat, I'm going to be putting a link to the nativevote.org. Mary Kim talked about a plan, to have a plan on the day of voting. And this is just great information to have when we're talking about disabilities, when we're talking about, okay, what can we do and make sure that we know our rights. It's just a great little link. So I'm putting that in the chat.
Thanks, Lourdes. And for those on the call that don't know what a Wela festival is, it's actually a chicken scratch dance. And chicken scratch, for those that love chicken scratch, it's a fun social dance. And it's practiced among the O'odham, but we hear other tribes have adopted Welas in their own communities. So thank you for sharing that, Lourdes. And our next slide talks about community involvement, outreach, and there's so many different ways to engage our communities. Some of the ideas include like hosting a town hall or a forum with candidates. I know Salt River Indian community just hosted an event where they brought in candidates to their community. And again, and for the young people on the call, start a youth-led campaign to spread awareness. I know for the Gila River Indian community, the O'odham Peepash Youth Council are now creating their own PSA messages that are going on the tribal Facebook through their social media, that they're having young people submit quotes about the importance of voting in their communities. So again, there's just many different ways of doing that. Another way is to partner with tribal councils, your tribal leaders, Native organizations, and to use social media to connect with young voters. Because what we know at Unity is that young people communicate through social media. Instagram, I hear, is the most popular. Of course, for those like me who are older, I use Facebook. But again, there's different platforms out there. So again, young people, this is so important to be involved in the process. You guys need to know that you have a voice in your community. And again, targeting, addressing some of those unique challenges as we mentioned. But again, it's important that we have you involved in the process because, again, you matter within your communities and within Indian country, so we need more of you. Of course, with voter education and resources, there are so many resources that are out there that could help to support you. I know Unity just recently did an outreach to all of the 10 regions within Unity. And Lauren Ashley will talk briefly about voter registration. She just sent out text blasts to all of our regions to get you to register within each of your regions. And it's interesting that some of the things that she learned in that research that some states don't even require, but she could go more into detail briefly. Lauren Ashley. Okay, she can't, she's having difficulties, I understand. But again, it's important that info on how to register to vote. Lauren Ashley, there you are. Go ahead.
I know we've seen some collaborations with different youth councils. Salt River Youth Council coming up in October, they're going to be hosting a pickle slushies for the vote. So knowing what your community comes out for, right? So come get your favorite slush, Piccadilly pickle slushie. Other events we've seen, ASU Law School are offering resources to those who run into problems when with voting. So we would just love to, if you're watching this live or if you're watching it later on Facebook, drop some events that are happening near you. I know we have people in the chat from all over the United States. We have people from the Dakotas, Alaska. All of us have different registration deadlines. And like Greg said, there's entire regions that they don't even offer online registration. Some of them you have to do it by mail. But just learning what is your state resources and being familiar with those things of the process. How would you sign up? Even if you're not old enough to vote today, knowing those things and researching them and making a plan. There's some statistics that show, and our next webinar will be focusing on how do you create a plan for the day of the event and how much that's important. And it does play a role in voter turnout. So yeah, drop it in the chat. Any other events you've seen that have just helped educate Native communities? They've done anything from potlucks to they've actually did up north. We saw a youth council. They created their own parade through their community, and so they played really loud music, and they got a bunch of different cars, and they knocked on people's doors, and they just asked them if they needed information about how to vote. And you would be surprised at the welcome they received. They did. I was happy to report they told us they didn't get attacked by any res dogs. And they made a lot of meaningful connections just by having those one-on-one conversations. So I'll turn it back over to Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren Ashley. And Lourdes is providing some websites there that have been very helpful as far as providing more information about some of the resources that are useful. We would definitely encourage all of you to look at those websites. And again, this is one way of getting involved in the process. You know, it's important that our young people understand what voter education is. And again, and so we'll go on to the next slide, which speaks about the success stories that we have in Indian country. It's important for us to highlight the wins when we talk about success stories when it comes to local efforts. Very proud of the Akmeratam Peepash Youth Council from Gila River for incorporating kids voting in all their tribal elections, state and federal elections. And what's so unique about the Gila River Kids Voting Program, it gives young people the opportunity to experience what it means to go into a tribal polling site. But the catch is the young people have to take their parents with them to the polling site. And so again, I love this success story because it's getting our youth involved and in learning that voting is going to be regarded as a normal practice, getting them prepared. And so Gila River Kids Voting has been in operation since 1993, and it's the first tribe to ever incorporate kids voting. Of course, the Youth Council back then had to get a tribal election ordinance amended so that it would allow the kids in the polling sites during elections. So it's a wonderful program. And what's so cool about it is you'll see the young people on the left side, they have their own little polls, they have their own ballots, their mock ballots, and they're tabulated at the end of the election. So the tribe Gila River will post the election so that to see if the kids mirror the results from the adults. And the tribe has credited kids voting to bringing 7% of the adult voter turnout during the election. So it's a really unique program. There's actually a curriculum that's designed from K all the way up to 12th grade that would include also corresponding activities. So it's a wonderful thing. You'll see the young man right there in the middle, promoting get out the vote. And I believe his name is Lance Sanchez from the Thanatam Nation. And so he was on the billboard you see right behind him. And again, this is just one way of how tribes are using their resources on their tribal lands to promote the Get Out the effort. On the right side is a young man who serves on the Akimaratam People's Youth Council. This is one of their PSA campaigns where he actually quoted, and this is actually on the tribal Facebook, and it's in the tribal newspapers. So tribal members are starting to see our youth get involved. So young people, Phil, I believe you have your success stories out there. Feel free to share those with your community. And I know all of you guys are very creative and you're really good with social media. I know how savvy young people are on Instagram. So, get this information out and get it posted. So we'll go on to the next slide. Auntie wants you guys to register to vote. And this is a call to action. Again, and that includes getting involved now. Register to vote, volunteer at a voter registration drive, spread the word about Native voting, and then again, join local Get Out the Vote events and make a difference. And this is a recent picture of some of our young people. I believe this was during the White Mountain Apache Tribal Fair Parade. And so they posed a picture there, and it says, "Your vote is your voice, make it heard." And so we'll go to the next slide, and I'll have Miss Lauren Ashley describe this really cool contest, Get Out the Vote PSA contest. Lauren Ashley?
Thank you, Greg. So we've partnered with, in partnerships with Tribes Forward and Center for Native American Youth, to really offer some amazing prizes to anyone who would like to enter the Get Out the Vote PSA contest. So it's really amazing because we really feel that anybody, regardless if you're old enough to vote or not, you have influence and you have a way that you can influence your community and empower those, right? Empower those around you. So what is a PSA? It's a public service announcement. So anything that encourages and inspires Natives to vote, it will get people out there. So how do you enter this contest? You attend a webinar. So if you've watched the webinar today, you can email headquarters@unityinc.org. We're actually taking names for those who are on live today. And then we have 2 more. So to enter the contest, all you have to do is attend one of the 3 webinars to learn more about Get Out the Vote, the movements, the resources available. And then all you have to do is film a 1-minute video inspiring Natives to vote in the election. So again, all the videos must be nonpartisan. And what does nonpartisan mean? Nonpartisan means that you're not choosing one candidate or the other. You're not telling people who to vote for, but you're just encouraging them to go to the polls and to participate in the elections. We were having a brainstorming session the other day, and we had one group who said, we're going to launch ours on Halloween. It's going to be, don't be spooky, get out the vote, or don't ghost the polls, and so they're creating a skit, and it's a simple 1 minute. They're going to upload theirs to TikTok and send it to Unity, a 1-minute video with Native youth just encouraging Natives to vote. And you can be as creative as you want with this. It can be a group effort or you can do it by yourself. And the exciting part is all you have to do is email the video to Unity at headquarters@unityinc.org before October 4th. So you have from now until October 4th to film a 1-minute video inspiring Natives to vote, and the top 20 videos. So we're going to upload all of the videos to Unity's YouTube channel. And then you can encourage your families, all your cousins, all your brothers, all your aunties to vote for your video. And by the end of the week, The people that have the most votes on their videos, the top 20 videos, will receive $750 cash each. So it just shows that, we want to reward those who are helping uplift our community and really engage in civic engagement, because at its core, that's what Unity is all about. So we will type the email address in the chat. Again, that's headquarters with an S at unityinc.org. And all of these contest rules can also be found at our website, which is www.unityinc.org. We will be emailing everyone who signed up for this webinar the contest rules, as well as just some samples. We're creating some digital samples. We have a sample to show them today, right, Greg?
Yes. Yes, and I also want to mention, and again, this is what Laura and Ashley went over already regarding creating your PSA. And now we want to share this video.
So that's one example. So they can be on any topic you like, developing key messaging you want your audience to absorb. So again, it's 1 minute. Our amazing fearless leader, Mary Kim, reminds us that, she was in news reporting for a long time, and sometimes she would have to tell an entire story in 1 minute. So just thinking it out, you can write out a script. You can really be like, what is the main topic you want? You can practice introducing yourself. You can identify your audience. Is this for other Native youth? Is this for people, in my specific community? Or is this nationwide? I want all Native people to vote, right? So determining your audience. And then also, how are you going to distribute? What is the hook? How are you going to get people's understanding? How are you going to get people to buy into what you're saying, right? And then we always encourage people to write an outline or a script when you film and produce the video. So again, we're going to actually copy and paste the link into the chat so you can watch it. And in case you weren't able to hear the sound, that was actually one of our 25 under 25 awardees. And his platform was really on getting people involved in civic engagement. And he actually went on to work for Navajo Nation. And he started just doing grassroots organizing, creating PSAs, getting people to the polls. And then later on, he was hired on as an intern, and he actually, it has amazing mentorships just from the connections he made through PSAs. So Greg, I'll hand it back over to you. Is there any other things that people could include, or feel free to put it in the chat if you have any ideas or questions about the PSA contest. Again, you have until October 4th. This can be a group project. It can be an individual project. There's no age limit. So you can work with your youth in your community, whether they're in elementary school, all the way up to our elders. If you want to have a young person partner with an elder and say, why is it important for elders to vote? Again, the top 20 PSAs, just encouraging Native people to vote, will earn $750 each. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura and Ashley. And again, we want to thank all of you for joining us, and We want you guys to all be engaged. We covered a lot of items, and we want to honor your time. We had some wonderful comments from Lourdes. Lourdes, do you have any last minute comments to our participants on the call?
I was going to mention that I know some folks on the call are not of age yet to vote, but you can still participate in what Unity's talking about with the PSA video. I'd also just mention that you could even put a video together, excuse me, that talks about other organizations and what they're doing. It would be great to see a video that has all the information we can just access on one click and kind of be able to see, just even for myself, it would be great to see what Indian country is doing, what other organizations are doing, how I can be a part of that. So even just, of course, encouraging Native voters to vote, but you could even do something as simple as saying, hey, these other places are doing such and such work and you should check them out, or hey, this is something you can access on voting day, right? To help if you have any issues, if you get turned away. It's great to see that. So even if you're not able to vote, you can still be an advocate, right, for the Native vote. I think that's really important. And it's great to see that Unity is doing this PSA videos. I can't wait to see them. So thanks to everyone who made the time to attend. This was awesome, and I love the conversation. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Lourdes. I know Lourdes is a busy young lady, and we do appreciate her time on this call and all of you for participating. On behalf of Unity, we want to say thank you. We want to encourage young people to get involved in the process. As I stated, your voice is so important. And there's ways, even though you may not be of age, there's ways you could engage your tribal communities to get them to vote. There's many successful stories out there that are happening, and it's so critical for young people. I know that you're on social media. All I ask is do your research when it comes to all of these things that you're hearing out. Of course, this election is going to be very critical to our tribal community, so it's important that we all get involved. Again, we want to thank you. We appreciate your time. What's going to happen is that after the end of the call, you will be getting an evaluation. Please fill out the evaluation form. This will help us in our efforts to better plan, or if there's any ideas that you may have, please definitely include that in the evaluation form. So again, on behalf of Unity, we want to say thank you. Thank you for being involved in today's first webinar. Also keep in mind that we have 2 more webinars. Our next webinar will be on September 26th and October 3rd. So if you have others out there that missed this webinar, we are going to have 2 more, okay? And for those of you participating in the PSA contests, it's important for you to take back what you learned here and develop some really creative PSAs. So I know we have our executive director on the call. Mary Kim, do you have any comments before we close?
Yes, hi again, and thank you, Greg, for really outlining all of the important elements and the significance of this election year. I have enjoyed immensely all of the details, and I'm excited. I really am. And I think this is going to be a year where we see significant numbers in Indian country. And the last 4 years, it really made a difference. So do your research. Read up on what happened 4 years ago. I don't have the numbers before me, but some races were determined by a certain number of votes. And it was determined that those numbers came from Native American communities. So your vote counts, your vote is important. If you're not eligible to vote just yet, you can make a difference by still encouraging your family members, your friends, those that are eligible vote to do so. And if you're interested in the PSA, I've been writing some tips about how to make your video creative. If you go to Unity's YouTube channel, you will see a lot of videos there, and you can, maybe get some ideas from that. And I believe the video that didn't have any sound is also on our YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, look up Unity Inc., and you'll find a lot of videos there. I'm excited about our PSA contest. We look forward to seeing them, and get as creative as you can, because it's going to be all about the votes, right? You want to get the most votes so that you can win a prize. So I wish all of you the very best, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, and we look forward to hearing your responses on the evaluations. Good day.